Welcome to the Cielo Spiritual Foundation podcast, your guide to healing, balance, and renewal. Join your host, Michelle Garcia, as she connects with leading experts to share powerful insights on mind, body, and recovery strategies. Tune in, transform, and discover new ways to live a better life. It all starts now.
So today I'm happy to welcome Michelle Garcia.
My friend Michelle Garcia is back here on the program to tell us a bit about an upcoming Cielo Spiritual Foundation.
Welcome to another episode of Inspiring Interviews here at Cielo Spiritual Foundation YouTube station. I would just be so grateful if you take a minute to subscribe and like. Definitely feel free to ask questions, be inquisitive, and definitely leave me comments to help me generate more amazing interviews. Today's interview is on a very dear friend of mine, Santiago, otherwise known as, I will not even say, I'm going to really just own your new name. So this is someone who I love and respect. He has been a very committed member of Alcoholics Anonymous since August of, what was it?
2001.
2001, that's right. So substantial years. And in that growth, he was inspired to be a drug and alcohol counselor, helping many people recover. Now he is located in Mexico, and he helps people both in centers within Mexico, recovery center, treatment center in Mexico, as well as online. So this is a great way for us to connect to more people who are multidimensional in their way of their being, as is Santiago. And stay tuned and stay plugged in and stay inspired. All right.
Great. Thanks. Well, thank you for having me. I think I'm really excited about being here.
Yeah, I can't believe you found me years later.
I know. Well, we met quite a while ago at a conference down here, and I am so glad that some of your social media found me and I found you, and so really happy to be here. This is a great place. It's so mellow. I told you that.
I'm so thankful he drove all the way from Mexico to be here. It's just incredibly moved and thankful, because the time that I've gotten to spend with you has been lovely.
Oh, thank you.
You are a lovely person.
Thank you.
So tell the viewers a little bit more about, it's like I don't want to jump to the whole workbook that you're being inspired to do, but first maybe just a little bit about your road to recovery, your meeting of your beautiful wife, whom you were married to a significantly long time, and just kind of what happened with that story, that love story.
Okay.
It is very poetic.
Thanks. That's sweet. Yeah,
it
thanks.
is. Yeah.
So, so let me start with my wife. I met her on a Sunday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We spent the next 20 hours talking to each other, and I asked her to marry me 2 days later.
I love it.
We were married for 35 years. In 2007, she got an infection from back surgery, and she had declining health over the next 6 years. And as you mentioned, I got sober in 2001, so I was sober at the time, and everything that I am today, I really attribute to getting sober. The day that I was arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol, I thought was the worst day of my life. I begged the police not to arrest me. I was a prominent member of society, of my community. I was in the real estate industry. People knew me. I knew a lot of people. And what I thought was going to be the worst day of my life turned out to be the best day of my life.
That's right.
Yeah. So I was mandated to go to AA. The first day that I was in there, they started talking about God, and I said, whoa, slow up, Red Ryder. I'm not sure there is such a thing or whatever. I was really a confirmed agnostic. I just didn't know. And but staying there, I heard a couple of things, get a sponsor, work the steps. I said, what's this work the step business, And so I got invited to a men's step study meeting, and I thought, oh, well, let's go see what that's all about. And really what it is, it was a really formal way of going through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, which are really, and it says in the big book that the big book is a new design for living.
That's right.
And truly my life is a exemplary of that. That I did not have, if I had principles, they weren't good ones that I lived by. I mean, get mine, get it. You know, I was a commissioned salesperson, so I didn't get paid for just showing up. I had to go out, find the beast, kill the beast, and bring the beast home. You know, and that kind of attitude. So when I got into AA and they started talking about, you know, God won't be too hard to find him, but they talk about a higher power. They say the nice thing about that is you can describe, your higher power can be anything that you want. I'm not a religious guy. I was born into a Jewish non-practicing household. My dad was an immigrant. And so we celebrated the holidays, but I didn't have any education into the religion. And so I just never paid any attention to it. When I got into AA and they started talking about, you know, if you seek him, he won't make himself too difficult to find and blah, blah, blah. And so what has happened to me since then is everything that I am today is really based on the last 23 and a half years that I've been sober. Much of it has to do with mental and emotional well-being, because they say in the big book as well that, you know, putting the plug in the jug is just the first step. The rest of it is how you show up, you know. And so living a life, a sober life, living a life of sobriety for me has also given me values that I had no idea about. I knew there was a word called kindness, but I wasn't a kind person. When I was out there, I was effective. I got things done, but I wasn't kind about it. You know, I wasn't really loving, although I had a wife and children. I wasn't really present for them or for what they needed of me. And all of those things have changed as a result of practicing those principles in my daily life to the best of my ability. I'm not perfect. There's nothing that is perfect. And I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful for AA igniting the fuse for me to search for something that I could believe in that was what I choose to call God. Yeah. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, we're all happy for that.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
It's made the world a better place, in
Yeah.
fact. Yeah.
Well, I certainly am not endangering anybody anymore.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, by driving under the influence. So.
That's right.
In fact, a couple of years after I got sober, I had dinner with my wife and I had dinner with a friend down in Newport Beach from the LA area. And, you know, it was a long waiting line, with an outdoor patio, and the waitress walked around 3 or 4 times. And then we had dinner for a couple of, hours. So it was a long time, you know. And I had my iced tea and whatever else. And as soon as we left there, I pulled out, turned left right into a checkpoint, a alcoholic checkpoint,
Oh,
you know.
funny.
My heart started racing and everything, and I said, oh, wait a second, I haven't been drinking. This is great,
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
cute. I remember those times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so thankful today. You know,
Still
when I-
nervous about
I
it
don't
though,
get-
you know.
Yeah, that way about police.
Yeah.
If I'm being pulled over, I know I have everything in check, and that feels good.
Exactly. And
I'm being
of course, going through the border is the
responsible.
same thing now. I don't have to worry about having
Oh,
anything
right.
in my car. They want to check, they can check. You know,
Yeah.
it's nice.
Yeah, that's a biggie.
So there's a
borders.
lot of freedom that I have uncovered and discovered as a result of my sobriety, which is great. But even more than just being sober, it's the things that I've learned about maintaining my emotional well-being
Nice.
and my mental well-being.
And
Yeah.
aren't you a student of Herb Kagan's 12-step
Herb,
study?
yes.
Because I know.
Yeah.
I think we talked about that.
Yeah,
Right? Like, 'cause
yes.
you and I both had done that.
Yeah.
And that is some
Yeah.
serious
That's
work.
the men's step group that I went through was based on the same group that Herb went through. Herb now teaches that stuff. He wrote a book on the 12 steps based on the work that we were all doing as a part of that. He did it before I did, but my sponsor and he were in that original group down in Walteria, which is near Palos Verdes.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
I did the one in Westlake Village.
Right.
All women.
Yeah.
And
We
literally
brought
what-
that to the women group.
Yeah, no, I'm well aware. It
Yeah.
was
Because
really
they-
life changing, actually.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
really, yeah.
absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
so much clarity.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
manner of doing the work, and I still to this day will take people through that version of the work because
Yeah.
I haven't found anything else that's been more of a helpful tool to guide people through in a really clear cut, true to the book format. You know, that just it's very transformational. At least
Oh,
it was
absolutely.
for me and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of the women. I literally at one point I was taking 5 women through the work, and it was like I had more energy to do more things because it's like your spirit is so awakened and so alive.
Yeah.
And people would say, aren't you doing too much? I was like, back in school to be a teacher again, like doing all this other stuff, right? But at a full life, I just think it's a full life, and we have more energy to do more things when your spirit's awake.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
But speaking of doing more things, what inspired you to become a drug and alcohol counselor?
Interesting.
And then what propelled you to go to Mexico of all places? Like,
Well, those are two entirely different things. But
living on the beach is not so like, oh my gosh, what would make you do that?
well, okay,
It's like-
so that's a good transition, because what happened was, I mean, so to become a drug and alcohol abuse counselor. So my wife passed away after 6 years of declining health.
Yeah.
And you know, during those 6 years, I was in the real estate industry, and I had to change the whole nature of my business in order to take care of my wife. And she went from standing up to falling down to a walker to a wheelchair. And ultimately, the hardest decision I ever had to make was to put her into a skilled nursing facility where she was probably spent the last 6 or 9 months of her life.
And you two were married again, how many years?
35.
35 years
yeah.
marriage. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah, it was.
It's
And,
really-
and what's really nice is that at our 25th year, she and I were taking a walk in the park, and I just looked at her and I said, you know, I'm so glad that we're really good friends.
Nice.
We were really good friends, besides
Yeah.
in love with each other. And listen, it doesn't mean we didn't have arguments. We did, you know.
Sure.
And but yeah, so it was really a good life. But the thing that I want to kind of bring up full circle on this is that, so about 6 to 9 months before she did pass away, I had some 5 days of some serious depression, I guess, extreme sadness. Just nothing was making me happy. People would ask me, how's your wife doing? Fine, fine, fine. I didn't tell them all the details of, you know, her falling out of bed or screaming, you know, whatever it was. And so I called Dr. Alan Berger.
Love him. Yes, Gestalt therapy.
I met him through her. He and her,
they're close. They do emotional
right.
workshop.
They do an emotional
10-step
sobriety thing every
work,
Thursday night.
essentially,
It's
yeah.
online. I'll plug
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
You can
yeah,
go
yeah.
online for emotional sobriety and see
I
them.
mean, yeah, I would plug that too, because they're just stand-up guys.
Yeah, but I met so Herb was having a workshop, and Alan, it was called emotional and spiritual sobriety.
Nice.
And
yeah, I know it.
Herb was doing Alan was doing the emotional thing, and Herb was doing the spiritual side.
Yeah.
So the emotional sobriety concept really just kind of resonated with me. I said, oh, that sounds really interesting. I think at the time I was about 7 years sober. And so I went to the workshop. That's how I met Alan. So fast forward now, I know Alan, and we're talking and doing things. And so I called him professionally to see when my wife was still alive, and the two of us went. We talked a little bit because she was struggling with so much. And when this time now that I'm bringing it up to where I called him after about 5 days of really extreme sadness, the first thing I said to him, I said, "Will I ever smile again?"
Wow.
I've been so sad for so long. 6 years of taking care of her and changing the whole nature of my business and everything else. And this particular time, it was just, I was so sad, nothing I didn't think would ever make me smile. And he said, look, he said, you're grieving right now. This is not a time for happiness. He said, just be aware of it. Don't try and stuff it down. This is the best advice I ever got. He said, just be aware of what you're feeling. He said, don't try and change it. Don't try and stuff it down. Just be aware of it. I said, okay. So I had a name for it. I woke up the next day and I felt just as shitty as I did the 5 previous days. And that happened and I said, oh, so I guess this is what grief feels like. Said, I guess this is what grieving feels like. It didn't feel good. I didn't like it. And that happened for the next 10 days in a row. So that's 15 days in total I felt like that, but didn't do anything about it. Didn't try and stop it. Didn't try and just aware of it. I felt shitty. And then it just kind of dissipated. So I thought, God, that was really amazing. You know, I really didn't do anything to change that. It just dissipated on its own. So I know that your emotions will not kill you. You hear that all the time. And so many people I've heard and I know stuff the feelings down. They don't want to deal with the feelings. And so as a result,
Toxic, literally, like it destroys the
it's
soul.
toxic to stuff it. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But see, people don't know that. And listen, what happens mentally and emotionally, it affects you physically.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Yeah.
And there's drawing all kinds of medical parallels to that as well. So, so anyway, so with that then, Alan also, my wife passed away, and I was grieving. Alan gave me a sober companion job. He said, "Would you be interested?" I said, "Yeah." And so I did that, and I enjoyed it. And he said, "If you really want to do that, you should go back to school and get some more training." So I went to UCLA. I drove 90 miles each way, 45 miles, 90 miles round trip, twice a week to become a drug and alcohol abuse counselor. Finished a 2-year program in 1 year.
Oh, look at you.
Graduated with distinction with a 4.03 average, and I tell you that because I flunked out of 2 colleges when I was 19.
Yeah, right.
Already two colleges I had flunked
I
because I really didn't want to be there.
I didn't flunk, but I feel like when I went back to school as well,
Yeah.
I'm super thankful that I really loved learning.
Yeah.
Especially, I think we picked something we're really interested
Yeah.
in, and that made a world of difference because
Yeah.
I excelled. I was top of my class. and
Yeah.
all these things that I wouldn't
Surprised
really.
us.
Surprised the heck out of me.
Yeah,
But I'm
me too.
thankful for today because I
Yeah.
kept going back for more. And,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's definitely priceless. No one can take your education from you. It stays with you. And
Right.
You can build on it.
Yeah.
And it's just nice.
Yeah,
It's great.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So that's how I became a drug and alcohol abuse
I love
counselor.
that
was
story.
from
It's a fun
yeah,
story.
yeah. So and then that whole concept, and then again, kind of circling back to the passing of my wife, having that experience, a couple of weeks after she passed away, and I say that I grieved while she was alive, when she passed, and even afterwards. And grief has a mind of its own. It's going
I
to
would
come
agree.
and go as it pleases. You've got no control. I don't have any
Yeah.
control over it. Although sometimes I can speak very objectively about that, and sometimes I'll say something and I'll feel the emotions coming up in me, and maybe I'll stop. It depends on where I'm at, what the circumstances are.
Yeah.
But so all of that I've taken in context, and as I counsel now, I know that if I'm not the only person that stuffs their feelings, doesn't know how to deal with their emotions, doesn't know how to say something, doesn't communicate well, doesn't have any control over their thinking. So I have all of these little kind of catchphrases that have helped me grow and learn and become a calmer, happier, healthier, mentally and emotionally human being.
Nice.
Yeah, one of them is
Yes,
if you're not controlling your thinking, your thinking is controlling you. And so, these are like there's 4 things I like to call maybe the 4 legs of a table. If you're building a table and you got 4 good strong legs, you got a good strong table. So these are the things, again, everything that I've learned since I've been sober as a result of the reading and my experiences, because I think we all learn through experience,
100%.
whether we follow it or go against it, but we all learn from it one way or another. So the 4 things that I've learned are accepting life on life's terms, whether you like it or not, getting control of your thinking, living in the present moment, right here, right now, and making a decision to be happy. It's really important.
I think you also learned, may I add to that?
Sure.
How to become aware of your feelings.
Oh, yeah.
Because you spoke to that, and I think
Yeah.
it's a very profound attribute that we can cultivate and share with other people to become aware of our feelings as they come up, and what does it look like, what does it feel like, and not to judge it,
Right.
but rather just let it be. And I know I always advocate that a feeling has a beginning, a middle, and an end. They're not facts. Even the
interesting,
good
yeah.
ones come
Yeah.
and go, right? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
an ocean is
Yeah.
flows, fluid, if we allow it to flow.
Yeah.
Because when we are completely surrendered and when we are not contracting, right,
Right.
that's what's so we can flow,
Right.
and
Right.
come and go. I have a friend, Dave Mallow, who's a grief and loss expert,
Okay.
and I know he talks about 5 stages to grief, but whatever kind of workbook or extra work therapeutically, Gestalt being one of them, we can do to move through that and really gain the pearls of wisdoms that are being made available. Because I mean, having talked with you, I think that the love that you shared and the loss was so worth it to you and has really helped you be the man who you get to love about yourself today,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's
That-
something, you know,
yeah,
that
yeah.
speaks volumes and is very
Yeah.
inspiring, you know, because we never want to have to regret any kind of
Right.
love that, you know, a
Right.
lot of people, you know, get stuck in the heartache and can't find their way out.
Right.
And that's,
Right.
you know, and,
Right.
and love,
Yeah.
my favorite quote with Amma is, you know, love is the foundation of the universe. Love sustains everything. If that's so, then we cannot allow broken hearts to permeate the existence of our life force, that healthy, divine, loving, and life force that we actually naturally have
Right.
to share.
Right.
You know, being willing to come and share your life and your story with everyone, you know, I just don't think that would have happened had you not taken the time to do your work.
Absolutely, it would not have. Absolutely, yeah.
So I guess I would love you to share a little bit about what the most empowering tool for you in terms of breaking through your grief and because that was probably one of the most painful in your most recent life experiences to work through. And then what inspirations have come to you of it to do from that? You know, like what can you share?
Okay, so I don't know if this is a direct answer. It's a beautiful
Okay.
question, and thank you for asking
Yeah.
that. But I distinctly remember a couple of weeks after my wife passed away, I was sitting in the backyard, and my head was going, did I do enough? You know, did I ask the doctors the right questions? Should I have taken her for some experimental treatment? You know, and then it would bounce into the future. You know, what's going to become of me? The first time, 35 years, I'm on my own. My children were grown and out of the house, and you know, and this back and forth, and it was very, very disconcerting. I mean, I was just a lot of anguish in that in those couple of hours that I was sitting in my backyard, and then all of a sudden I got a intuitive thought
Beautiful.
that hey, right here, right now, you're okay. You got food in the refrigerator, you got a house to live in, you got clothes to wear, and you know, I thought about that, and I said, oh yeah. And I said, and I just kind of, it repeated itself a couple of times, right here, right now.
Nice.
And so I just, when I said that, okay, yeah, right here, right now, I'm okay. Right here, okay. And all of a sudden, I just felt all the stress just leave my body, and I sat back in my chair, and I felt the breeze blowing across my chest, and I looked over and I saw bees taking nectar from the flowers.
Nice.
And I thought, oh my God, this is so lovely. And so I've really just refined that down to those 4 words that I still use today. Whenever my head will go off in any direction that I don't want it to, I say, hey, right here, right now, this is my only reality. This is my only reality. You and I had plans. We did things yesterday. We have plans for tomorrow. You know, but right here, right now is our only reality. We don't know that those things are really going to happen in the future.
There you go.
And so, again, not being a trained psychologist, although knowing a lot about it, I have kind of come to think that depression is regretting the past, something you didn't get or something that was taken away, and anxiety is about the future, something that you want or whatever.
Well said, yeah.
And so
We
when
talk about
you're
that
right
as
here,
fear,
right
too.
now,
No,
when you're right here, right now, you have none of that.
No
That was
doubt.
the experience that I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
sitting
I
in my
love it.
backyard, that I didn't have to worry about the future.
I do love that. It's
Yeah.
so spiritual. What a beautiful spiritual awakening, and just the coming to know. It's, you know, we talk about becoming present and aware.
Right.
But that's a really cool memory
Yeah.
that you just.
Oh yeah,
shared,
when I just told you, I could
know.
see myself sitting. I remember that. You know. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
really.
I encourage everyone to try to allow yourself to take time to meditate, to have those kind of life-changing, it can be.
Yeah.
If you build on that, if you really take that and go and really marvel in it and see the beauty in it
Yeah.
and enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah. But see, we don't
right?
get that kind of training. You know.
No, I don't think that's what makes all of the tools we do get
Yeah.
applicable. Even, you know, because I can have a lot of information
Oh, I agree.
and then not
No,
apply it and
Information
embody
and
it
experience
and
are
manifest
two
it.
different things.
Oh, for sure. And I think, you know, for me, when I have those kinds of experience, I have some stories too.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have
I'm sure.
stories,
Yeah.
and they allowed me to really fully step into the way I get to use my tools.
Right.
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 So
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about values. I know I work a lot with my clients around values or their value systems, creating values that help support them. And you spoke to me about your ideas with values as it relates to therapy. What can you share more about how that looks like and what that feels like?
Sure. So again, all of this, and we talked about this just off camera for a moment, about the difference between knowing something and experiencing something.
Yeah.
You can have a lot of knowledge. Herb will do this all the time. You have a lot of knowledge up here, but it isn't incorporated in here, you know? And so it really is a combination of the two. And I think of the two, that the experience is more important, more valuable than just the information. So again, all of these things, so I've created, I guess, from what I've read, 8 values that I try and live my life by, which is that every day, so living in the present moment, every day I want to be a little bit more loving, kind, patient, tolerant, open, honest, understanding, and effective. So that
One more time, do it again.
loving,
They're so good.
I want to be more loving,
Yes.
kind, patient, tolerant, open, honest, understanding, and effective.
Those are all gorgeous.
Yeah. You
I
can't
like
go-
8. It's like one of my favorite numbers.
Is it? Yeah. Well, I like actually being effective is really important, even though all the others are very flowery and very lovely. But effective for me means, you know, the way I'm going to talk to you might be different than the way I would talk to somebody that's new in recovery.
I like that.
You know, so I have to talk to them at what they know, not what I know.
Right, like meeting someone where they're at.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's important.
So
Really
being
important.
effective is really important. Otherwise, it's like knowing it up here,
Yeah.
but not really incorporating it down here.
100%. I
Yeah.
love when you have this feeling of, you know, your head and your heart are in sync with
Yes.
each other. I think
Oh.
for me, when that started to happen, I was more in the, it just,
Yeah.
it's like flow state.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
You don't have to ride as many 10 steps.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. That's what and in fact, when I counsel, that's always one of the things that I talk about. And again, the 4 legs of the table is getting control of your thinking. If you're not in control of your thinking is in control of you. And so to know that your thinking is up here, but your heart is right here. And you know, that sometimes that journey is the longest journey that anybody will ever make, because the thought always comes first. The thought always comes first. And it's not what happens to you that's important. It's how you respond to what happens to you.
Beautiful, yeah.
You know, so, yeah.
And sometimes they can be incongruent, but that's when we get to meditate on it, or that's when it's a good time to talk to a therapist or guide in and around it, when there's somehow they're not, you know, in sync, like what's going on here. There's some conflict. I'm not, you know, my head and my heart are not matching, you know, that's a good time to do the work.
Absolutely.
And so thankfully you're really committed to doing the work. So do you work with people who are not alcoholic as well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Absolutely,
That's
yeah.
great.
Worked with couples that are having problems in their marriage.
Oh, beautiful. That's a great.
Yeah, having, you know, just, and again, when you have this perspective, I think, for me, I can see things so much clearer than the people that are actually in it, you know, arguing about the silliest of things. To me, they're silly. I know they're big things to them, but you know, well, he wanted to go this way and I wanted to go that way, and you know, but when it comes down to it, and Marianne Williamson will say everything is either love or the absence of love. And so, you know, when you come from that perspective, you can see that at least I can see that things are not as big as the problems that people think they have. In fact, I've even changed my language, because I don't even use problems anymore as a part of I don't describe anything as having a problem. I describe it as a detail.
Oh.
See, a detail is just one of the many things. I talked to somebody at 10 o'clock in the morning and said, oh, I've had an awful day. Oh, it's been 10 o'clock in the morning. What do you mean? You got the whole day. You got the whole day to go.
Start
you
over.
know? Yeah,
I know
you know.
too, yeah.
And so for me, those are
That's
just
great.
details. If you look at it as, for me, a problem needs a solution. A detail is just a fact, an objective fact, which is also what this understanding kind of has done for me, is that it's given me an opportunity not to take things personally, which it
Nice.
says in the 4 agreements,
Sure,
you know,
that's always-
and to be able to see things more objectively, even about myself. When I had some misconceptions last week about some things that came up, and I'm driving along and say, oh, kind of throwing yourself a pity party, aren't you? Oh yeah, I guess I am. Well, what's that point? What's that going to do for you? So it's an ability to control my thinking, okay, which is controlling my emotions and not letting that get the best of me, not reacting to everything the way, I will traditionally drive fast on the freeway, and I have people tailgating me, and I'm going above the speed limit, and I know that if I can get over, I will, but if I can't, I'm not, and they want to tailgate me, I just look straight ahead. I don't look in my rearview mirror. And I had a guy that went over 2 lanes, that went around me, got in front of me, and got behind the guy that I was behind.
Nice.
Wow. So what are you going to do? I mean,
I don't know. My dad says to kiss them, blow them a kiss.
Yeah, but my knee-jerk reaction is, oh, F you, But again, I've learned to not act on all of those thoughts, which is something else.
Yeah, beautiful.
Stephen, oh God, what's his last name? I can't think. He wrote the book, The Untethered Soul. And he talks about that we're not our thoughts. That was really important for me to read one time. There's a number of books that have been really important. Be Here Now by Baba Ram Dass, but The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
So many good ones.
Stephen, what is his last name? I can't think of it. I got a brain freeze right now. But The Untethered Soul, so that we're not really our thoughts. So I even look at this, taking it another direction, that thoughts are like electrical impulses. We have a brain that sends and receives information 24 hours a day, right? That's why we dream, all of that. So the thoughts that we get, I'm thinking about a funny story that I could tell, but the thoughts that we get doesn't mean that that's who we are. I thought that's who I was. I said, well, where did if that's my thought, I came from me, it must be me. I don't believe that. I believe that, in fact, when the Wright brothers were building their airplane back here in the 1920s, there were guys in France working on the same thing. They didn't have any communication, but they were doing the same thing at the same time, worlds away, thousands of miles away from each other. So those thoughts that come up for everybody, sooner or later, sometime.
So when you're doing therapy with people, you can make them aware that, in fact, their thoughts are coming up, that there are, or if they're doing a spiritual bypass, you can make them aware of that. I know that's something that I work with a lot too.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's good to be able to perception check with someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. I think this is something I like to ask different therapists that I meet and discuss ideas with. Do you find yourself ever giving people their answers because you feel like, I got to tell them the answer, or not?
Yes. Unfortunately, I do find myself doing that more often than I would like.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a really, thank you for being honest.
Yeah. No, and it's one of my character defects as a mental and emotional practitioner, health, well-being practitioner, because I think it is more impactful when people discover it for themselves. So Alan Berger is great at this. He's a master at this, and I was fortunate to study with him for 2 years. And he doesn't tell you what the answer is, but I do find myself doing that because I'm a solution-oriented guy. And I said, look, all you got to do is, But I do get letters from people. I just got I got an email from a guy who I worked with two years ago, who told me how he's doing in sobriety, and he quoted some of the things that I had said to him, and so this has been really important, so.
I mean, I think it goes back to, we do get to meet people where they're at, and there are some people that need a little bit more.
I ask a lot of questions.
I think that, for me, but the most spiritual approach, of course, is when we can allow them to find their own truth and answer, not rob of the dignity of their own experience, their own journey, their own spiritual curriculum's truth will come out. And I trust in that process, and so I always try to encourage that. And also, I like to hear what other people are doing because,
I don't think I'm that smart. I don't think
I sometimes wonder,
I don't. I wish that do you know what motivational interviewing is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought when I heard that, I thought, God, if I could master that, I could master the world, because it's all about asking the right questions. Right?
Yeah, well,
It's all about, I don't have the patience, I guess, or I'm more solution oriented for the most part. But I do ask a lot of questions, and I also define what I mean by certain things too, which I think is really important.
I think that is. I think, and sometimes I think with someone like you could create safe enough space with someone that if you throw out an idea, it only helps them maybe even not feeling like they need to own that as theirs, but rather just maybe even just try it on for size and see where that goes for them. But yeah, obviously, curiosity is the highest form of intelligence, and we want to arouse their curiosity on whatever it is they're questioning and exploring and learning about. And how long have you been doing the therapy work?
I since 2016, probably, roughly, something like that.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's when I really started my recovery work. Counseling, really, since 2019, probably, seriously, where I was doing it more full time.
Yeah, and
2019.
So how long is that?
Well, so that's this is 25, so 6 years.
Yeah, that's good.
6 years in active counseling.
Okay.
But again, I have experience in recovery and working in recovery since 2015. And if you consider my own personal work, I consider everything that I am today as a result of 2001. Everything that I've learned. Because it is for me, it's a process, and they'll talk about it. I'm a work in progress. Yeah, I am a work in progress. And the more I learn and the more I know, I realize, there's more. There's always more, it seems like. So they talk about the world and the universe being a circular kind of a thing, and I like that. It's like, it's never ending. Like, I hope I'm a lifelong learner. I want to learn, I want my last words on this planet to be, oh, wow.
Nice.
The
awe of it, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, come with a sense of awe and wonder.
All the gurus have gurus. I mean, there's no end to our capacity to continue to evolve, and that's exciting to know. I mean, it's like, wow, what else can I learn? What else can I challenge myself in this lifetime to, co-create with spirit? My aunt would say, follow your heart, not your head.
Exactly.
When I was she was giving me her high school picture. She signed it on the back, and I remember that really hit me. I mean, maybe I'm a Leo, and I'm very heart-centered, so it really resonated. But the thing is, when I got into recovery later, I realized, attuning my cognitive stimuli into a place where it does, and it's congruent with my heart, is a whole nother level of mastery and obviously we never fully master the art of living. Like, that's the beauty of it, right? We get lessons through making mistakes, through really like stretching yourself, right? Like, what else can I do? And then maybe you fall 4 times before, but the idea is never give up and to keep on learning from those experiences.
And I just want to add one thing to that whole concept that resonated with me, because no matter how good I was at certain things, I never had the feeling that I was good enough.
Interesting.
And again, there's all kinds of reasons why I can attribute it to. I didn't get this. My dad was an immigrant. He had a 7th grade education. He didn't. He was a hard worker. He provided a good life for us. I love that man today. But I was angry at him for most of my life.
Really?
And so, what I've learned is that, and what I've had to do is that I've had to learn to become my own best friend, where I can say today, I really like who I am. I really like who I am.
I really get that about you.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll always have.
And I thank you for that. No, and I don't think it's arrogant. I'm able to say it very objectively.
I really feel that about
because
you.
a lot of
you're
people
comfortable in your skin.
Yes, exactly.
And that's great.
Yeah, thanks. And when I counsel, again, also, I think that vibration allows people to feel comfortable with me.
Safe,
and they know, like you were talking about before, that I can say things directly to people and they won't take it offensively. I'm not criticizing, I'm not calling them names. I'm pointing out things that maybe they don't see that will resonate with them if it's true. It may not be true. I've made mistakes. I've said something about, oh, no, that's not, oh, okay, well, what is it then, And so But the thing that I'm talking a lot about now is how to become your own best friend. How to really like yourself. And I remember when I was doing some of my work early on, I had to put 5x7 cards all over my mirror that had sayings on it, you know. And one of them was, "You're worth it just because you exist."
Oh, beautiful. I like that one.
Isn't that nice? You don't have to do anything. You're worth it. And that's the way I treat people. Everybody is worth it. Everybody has the same. And when I talk about this, I don't talk about it to get a pat on the shoulder. I'm happy that who I am, and I'm glad that I've done what I've done. But I tell you because you can do it too.
Yes,
That's the whole question, that if I can do it, you can do it.
I love it.
Yeah. And so that's really one of the things that I really wanted to make sure
Do you know, I feel that way about my life too. I feel like if I could recover from the things, mental health, everything else I had to go through,
and all the other bad habits.
You know what? Yeah, as a result of me using and in the 5 years, especially before 1991, wow, like it's been a journey, and you know, and I don't regret it. Like, you know, it definitely cultivated me into the way. I don't know that I would have sought spirituality on the level that I have had I not absolutely had to. But I love people who do it just because. I mean, I'm like, I'm moved, you know, because I think it's just so wonderful. I met a guy once in Malibu, Kofi. We were sitting with, Fred Siegel guy, and you know, having a tea or whatever, and they were talking about how they'd never done a drug in their entire life, because why would he do that to his body? And his whole life, he's never touched any alcohol or drugs. And I was like, wow,
it's amazing,
such a respect for his body as a temple. And his neatest little accent when he said that too. And he says, "I celebrate life." You know, and I was like, yeah, that's my motto. You know.
Well, you said that when you said you wouldn't seek spirituality unless you needed to, or however you said that. But the reason that I do it is because it makes me feel better.
Now,
I literally feel better.
You evolve, and you're like, well,
I feel,
is that?
you know, people will say that your vulnerability. I feel like I'm willing to be vulnerable. I'll tell you the truth about me.
I love that.
That opens up a space for them to be vulnerable with me. I think it's my superpower.
It's sort of like contagious, you know.
That and kindness. You know, I think those are my superpowers, really, not weaknesses. You know, and so because that makes me feel better, like that, I didn't do it for that reason. I didn't say, "Oh, well, I'm going to be kind because it'll make me feel." I had no idea. I didn't know what kindness was. Nobody ever used that word and my name in the same sentence before I got sober. And for many years thereafter. But now they do. They say, "Oh, you're so kind." I had to look to see who they were talking about at
You're
first.
so funny.
Oh so it's great.
Anyway, so did you ever get to do a Gestalt therapy?
I did.
With
Oh,
him?
absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Tell me about that.
Oh boy. Well, are you familiar with the open chair?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So in studying with Alan Berger is a psychotherapist, world-renowned author, beautiful human being.
And plays really good music.
And I hear he's quite a good tennis player too. But so anyway, in studying with him, at some point towards the end of your 2-year studying, he has you be in the chair. And then he has you also be the therapist. So I had to do both.
Yeah, that's fun.
So the empty chair technique, basically, if you say, "Oh, I hate my mom," say, "Okay, great. You have an empty chair in front of you," and you say, "Now pretend that's your mom, and you tell your mom what you think about her. Just go ahead and tell her."
Right.
And then you do that. "Oh, Mom, I hate you because you dressed me up as a girl for Halloween when I was 5 years old." And I just say, "Okay, now good. Now go over and be your mom and answer you." And boy, does that change your perspective on everything.
Oh, isn't it?
Well, I did that because I wanted a little girl. I didn't want to have a little boy, whatever it is. But you learn, but it's a way to purge yourself. Again, get your emotions out, get your feelings out, as opposed to stuffing them down.
And I think also for me, it brought empathy
Absolutely.
to that person's perception. I never even thought about, okay, now I got to think about what they were thinking.
Right. You
know, I just might not have done that as much to the point, because we keep going back and forth until there's issue resolution as many times as it takes. And sometimes it takes longer, and sometimes you nail it right away.
And that's really important too, is that, you know, in making an amends to somebody for somebody that you hurt or did something, when you recognize, a lot of people won't do that. They'll never say they're sorry. My dad never said he was sorry.
I don't know if it's saying sorry is even the thing, right?
It's not.
It's about, how can I make it right?
That's what an amends
wrong.
is. Yeah.
Sorry is like,
right.
Please.
Yeah.
The violin thing, right?
And we've all said that 1,000 times and then done the same thing over again,
Isn't it
right?
exhausting after a while?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you are. Sorry.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah.
But I mean, really owning something, really taking responsibility is empowering.
Yeah,
I learned
absolutely.
in my experience.
Absolutely.
I know from everyone I've
Well,
talked
that's
to.
it. So the other thing that I say about that, thank you for bringing that up, is that one of the things as I was going through all this is I came up with this thing. Actually, when I was working the 4th step, and I had to realize what my part in all of that, everybody that I hated, that whole list, was so angry at.
Yeah.
And when I realized that I had a part in it, so all of a sudden I became aware that I said, and I say, that I am 100% responsible for everything that I think, say, and do, past, present, and future. And when I take responsibility for that, it's a liberating place to live from, because I don't blame anybody for anything. Things happen I don't like, but I made the decision to do that. So whatever it is, I take responsibility for it. And that is a tremendously liberating place to live.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
I think, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, and the only thing we can change is ourselves anyway, come to find out.
Well, that's it. Wherever you go, you take yourself with you. When I moved to Mexico, so I moved in COVID, okay, and I had, because my wife had lost her ability to walk upstairs in the 2-story home we lived in, we sold that, we moved to a 1-story. I was living in Camarillo, she passed away, I stayed there, and after 8 years of living there, the house got sold. And so they said, you can either buy it or you gotta move. And this was during COVID.
Yeah.
So I started looking around. I said, I'm a single man. Don't want to move into a neighborhood. I'm a house guy, not a condo guy.
Right.
So what am I going to do? So I started looking at the beach in Oxnard, Ventura, and all that stuff.
Nice.
What I could afford, I didn't like, and what I liked, I couldn't afford.
Yeah.
And so and then I saw this thing for Mexico. So when I moved, and I said, well, I asked 100 questions. When I went down there, I came back and my son said, what are you doing moving to Mexico? He says, you don't know anybody there. You don't speak the language. You going crazy? What's going on? Why are you doing that? I said, look, man, wherever I go, I take me with me. And so I know what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to go to places that I don't belong or that might be risky. And I'm not going to do things like that. And so I've lived down there for 5 years, never had a problem.
Nice.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I have an uncle that lives there, and my dad has property there, and it's
a lot of expats down there.
Playa de Carmen, he has a place in Playa de Carmen too, but between Rosarita and Ensenada. And so there's a man-made marina there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's gorgeous.
What's
really.
interesting about that too, and we were talking earlier about the difference between being in America and living someplace else, or even visiting someplace else. And the people that you come in contact with in America, I'm happy that I'm an American. I think America has lost its heart and its soul, misplaced it, but everybody seems like they're uptight and angry about everything and everyone. And in other countries, and certainly Mexico, you can see plain people who are just look at you and talk to you, and
nice.
It's a very relaxed. It's a more relaxed, for me, humanistic kind of existence.
Yeah, I'm very happy you found somewhere that fits for you. And
yeah.
And that there was a meeting hall right nearby that you got to connect to.
Well, that's another
that
shot.
That was a cool story you shared with me. Everything just worked out.
I told you about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because you were talking about if it's not in the cards, which I'm a big proponent of that, you do the research, you feel things out, and then if things just keep lining
up. I had no
up,
planning.
Then it's just okay, it must
Never
be
on my
God's
radar
will.
to move to Mexico. When I looked around, I told you I couldn't afford what I liked, and what I liked I couldn't afford. And I found this ad on Craigslist in Ventura County, and I said, okay, again, my higher power, my connectivity, my spirituality, I used the word God. Hey, God, if you want me to be in Mexico, you got to make it real clear, black and white, no gray areas. And again, I've told you several stories, one of which was when I go down there to see the place, I come back and I smoking a cigar at a local cigar shop, waiting to go back the next day. And I say to the lady that owns the place, by the way, do you know anything about AA? I'm in recovery. I said, have you got anything? She says, she thinks for me. She says, I buy fabric from a guy, and I think right next door there's a AA thing. I said, really? I said, could you show me where it is? She says, you come back at 7 o'clock. I'll show you, I'll take you over there. Drives me over there. I take pictures of it. Oh my God. That was 10 days later, I'm on Alan Berger's emotional sobriety thing, and I'm telling my kids think I'm crazy. I'm moving to Mexico and blah, blah, blah. And I get a private message. I've lived in Rosarito, where I live, for 25 years. So we exchanged number. I said, give me your number. We talked after the thing. She hooked me up with all of the Zoom meetings. They were doing Zoom meetings because it was COVID. And I already knew people before I ever moved down there. So
perfect.
Yeah, 2 really big God shots,
I feel like that's flow state.
Absolutely.
I'm going to give it a name.
Absolutely.
You just inspired me to give it a name.
You're in the zone.
We're in the flow state.
You're in the zone, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, God's way of being anonymous.
Yeah. Well, there's a saying that goes that, once you make a decision to do something, and I forget the term, will, guide your way. There's a word for it, and I've forgotten what it is. But
when you put it out there and the rest is in God's hands.
Yeah, when you make a decision and you're moving in that direction, have faith that it's going to work.
Yeah.
That it will work. As long as you keep moving in that direction,
Oh, I kind of live by that.
Yeah.
You have to when you have a sober house.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And my mentor's like, okay, let me help you with the budget one time. And I was like, oh, sure. Okay, so how much do you make? I was like, I don't know. I was just like, how much you going to make? Well, I don't know.
Right.
How can you live like that?
Yeah.
I said, I just trust God.
Yeah.
And that,
yeah.
Oh, I could never do that. She was more of a needed security, but everybody's different,
right.
And I think trusting in God, why I bring that up, is so vital. And it really definitely allows you to practice that trust in God process in all the other areas of your life. I mean, when you do it in one area, it bleeds through all the rest. It's just like when I treat my spirit, mind, body, soul also follows. It's just like, it's almost like it can't not.
Yeah.
If I try to do it the other ways, it's like a rubber band. It'll bounce back. It won't sustain itself. And we want sustainability, because that's what real lasting, real transformative, transgenerational, I'll even say.
Yeah.
Like I listened to you share about your experience with your father,
right.
and you're certainly somebody who went and got education, you went to university,
right.
you got sober, you were traveling living in different countries. You're doing very transgenerational things that are changing
right.
your family systemic lineage. And all of the lives you touch, not just your offspring, but the lives you touch as you move through life with your story.
Yeah.
That is possible.
Well, you talk about transgenerational, so I just visited my children. My son is an attorney.
Nice.
Married, has 2 kids.
Nice.
And so that just came up in our conversation some way. I know you didn't finish college and blah, blah, blah. And he says, I got 2 degrees. My son is so smart. And I always thought that I would be a great attorney, that I would like when I was growing up, but I never had the support, never had the encouragement, whatever it was. I can blame it on a lot of things. I could have made the decision I didn't to do more for myself. But my son became an attorney.
Nice.
And he works at a very, very high level. 1,600 people reporting to him, and works at a very high level. He says, Dad, I got two degrees. And can you imagine what my son is going to be like? He's teaching his son to play golf now. He's in the Junior Olympics. I used to take my son to play, and I wanted to play golf just because my dad played golf, just so I could be near him. So yeah, you can break the transgenerational negativity by changing your life. I have done that. I coached all of my kids' sports teams. My dad never showed up for one of mine. He's teaching his kid to be a golfer, like I took him to take golf lessons. So yeah, you can do all of that. Don't think that because things are a certain way that they always have to be that way. And that's why I said, if you become your own best friend and start to trust yourself and start to really look and say, is that thought really how I feel, or is that what I've been told I should be? That's really important, I think, to really question yourself about how you're making the decisions that you're making on how you want to be and what you want to do. You talked about me changing my name. I did. There's a whole story attached to that, but I feel like I'm much more a Santiago than I ever was with my other name. So, and it just fits me, and I feel good about it, and I like it.
Did that happen in Mexico when you moved to Mexico?
Yeah,
That just,
yeah.
Okay.
But it happened because I was sitting in a meeting. We all go around and introduce ourselves, and a guy introduces himself. He was a new guy, never seen him before. Says, I speak 17 languages, and I've lived in 52 countries.
My goodness.
I know, that's
Impressive.
exactly what I thought.
I love that.
And so I said, I want to talk to this guy afterwards. So I did. And he said, do you know who Paulo Coelho is? I said, no. He said, he wrote The Alchemist. And I said, oh, well, I've heard of it. I never read it. So he said, well, you look a lot like him. Well, I've had people say you look like so-and-so once or twice over the years. No. I said, well, I'll check it out. Guy who speaks 17 languages says something to me like that.
Sure,
I'm
give it a
going
look.
to check it. I'm going to check it out one more step. So I looked the guy up and I said, oh, I can see the resemblance. I think there is. So I called the guy and I said, look, I agree, and I'd like to read a little bit about him. So he's a Brazilian author, very interesting guy.
I love alchemy. Love it.
Yeah, well, he's written about 20 books. I've read about 18 of them now.
Oh, wow,
I've never
nice.
followed an author before, but for me, it's like a spiritual adventure, the commonality that we all have. And the one thing I really hope, if anything comes of this, if anybody is watching this, I really hope the one thing that they hear or they get or that they can incorporate as their own life is to have some hope and to know that it's never over, just to keep moving forward and to be good to yourself. Don't beat yourself up about the mistakes you made in the past. The past is already gone. It's only present if you bring it into the future. Live right here, right now. Don't bring the past in with you. It's already gone. You can make bad decisions. We all make, and you'll still make mistakes. I still make mistakes. But I don't make the same mistakes that I used to make, know.
Yeah, that's evolving. That's wild about it. I love it.
Yeah. And so, the one thing I really hope that everybody would do is become their own best friend. That, trust yourself. Trust. I have a trust in my definition of spirituality, because when you say God, everybody thinks God standing on the thing, and no, that's not God to me. God is the word that I use for the interconnectivity of everything that exists, from the smallest microbes. All of this is atoms, protons, electrons, neutrons, all of that stuff that we can't see, all connects and means something, and all of that to me.
There you go, metaphysics now.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
That's
that's what, to me,
Keep
that's
it coming.
what,
How
and
big
the
is it
flow
get?
and the
How big
frequency
is it
of
get?
life.
That's
Yeah,
right,
all of
that's
that.
right.
So these are the new
Universal
the new
state.
levels of understanding that I'm getting and growing, is to the vibration and the sound,
Yes,
the
yes.
sound of the universe, the frequency of the universe. And a lot of people say Om is the sound of the universe.
The frequency
and I can
sound.
listen to that. Your what you do is beautiful with the sound bath.
Thank
I
you.
mean,
You're going to get
my-
to experience that firsthand
Oh
today.
my
I'm
gosh!
doing that.
Oh my gosh! That is
really
beautiful.
for
If you've
you
ever
today.
never had that experience, you should owe it to yourself. It's a beautiful experience. It really is.
Thank
Whether you're
you.
here or any place else.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
anyone,
Yeah.
find it, if it's not me, anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get
Just to
experience.
listen and to quiet the mind.
Right.
Another one of my favorite sayings is a calmer mind. Always seek a calmer mind, because a calm mind, you'll always make better decisions. You always make better decisions. When you start to get upset or something, you're reacting. Stop reacting and start responding. Respond. You have a choice. If you'll take that pause between that initial "F you," to just take that pause and not let that out and say, okay, what are my other options? How can I respond to this? That will give you that moment of clarity where you can decide, do I want to act like that? I don't know if there's any, for me, there's no benefit to that, but how can I act? I was in an accident down in Mexico. A guy pulled out in front of me, and I swerved to miss him. There was a big commercial dump truck next to me and took out my two doors on the right side. We pull over, we're talking, he's talking in Spanish, and I'm in my broken Spanish, and we call the police, and the police come, and he calls his insurance company, and they come. So the police ask what happened. I tell him he went and talked to the other guy separately. He told him the same thing. And so when it's all over, I wanted the commercial insurance company to pay for my car. Look, he said, we weren't at fault. The guy that pulled out in front of you was at fault, and he took off. I said, okay. And I could have argued and bitched and moaned, but I didn't. I said, okay, thanks, have a good day. I appreciate that. Appreciate you guys just coming and being here and, whatever. And when I didn't like it, I had to pay for my own repairs, So, that kind of thing. I had a choice on how I wanted to. I could have yelled and screamed and bitched and moaned, but it wouldn't have changed anything.
I commend you.
You know?
Why waste energy foolishly?
I guess. So all of that, again, allows me to, I like feeling good. I like being happy. I do things that make me feel good. When I said make a decision to be happy, what that means to me is do things that make me happy and don't do things that don't make me happy.
Yeah, it sounds like you're the director of your own
Absolutely.
movie or movie of life. Your life.
I have a friend who says, it's your pen. Don't give it away. Write your own story. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you said something to me over the phone when we were talking. We talked for like an hour before you came.
Yeah.
About someone asked you, they posed the question, why don't you choose to be happy? You can choose to be happy when you're in that state of, grieving and such, and it was like lingering, and you were wanting, a way out, and I thought that was pretty cool.
I lost you for a second.
Do you remember telling me that someone had asked you, you have a choice to be happy or not?
Well, that was Alan. Alan Berger was the one that told me, just be aware of the feeling. Don't try and stuff it down, because I was sad and I just, I didn't want to feel like that. Afterwards, when I was sitting in my backyard, then I said, I don't want to just roll over and die. My wife, we've been together 35 years. I want to be happy. And so that's when that thought came to me. Well, what does that mean? I'll do things that and that's when the Dalai Lama was coming to LA at the time. A few days later, I saw, Dalai Lama, that'd be cool to see him, yeah. So I called up and the tickets were way more than I wanted to spend for a ticket. Then the thought, you said you wanted to be happy. That would make you happy. Why don't you do that? Okay, I'll do that. And so I did that, I bought the ticket. I went, I sat with everybody else. And the Dalai Lama it was so wonderful for me to have that experience. He's up on the stage. I'm not front row, I'm back in the back like everybody else, whatever.
Yeah.
And he said a lot of things, but the one thing I remember is, besides him laughing at his own jokes, he says, everybody wants to be happy. He was pointing to his head. He said, everybody wants to be happy. I thought, that just validates what I just experienced. See, I didn't want to be unhappy, and so I made a decision that I want to be happy. And I was volunteering with one of my groups. We're putting on some Founders Day thing, and goes back to October. The event is in June, and the guy who's running it wants me to do everything. I said, I'm not going to do it. I said, I'll support you. I said, this is what I'll do, blah, blah. And he never says thank you, and he never says it. He's just like, he wants everybody to do what, he's the chairman, and his idea of leadership is to tell people what to do, not to empower them to do it. And I just got tired of it. And we were at a meeting, and he's talking about, if you have any questions, ask Santiago. He's talking. If you have any questions, just ask him. I didn't tell him. He didn't ask me if that was okay. So I talked to my sponsor. I talked to some trusted advisors. Yeah. And I said, I sent him a note. I said, I quit. That's it. My sponsor said, yeah, you can. He said, what do you want to do? I told him this. I said, I don't want to work with him. He said, then quit. I said, I can do it. Yeah, you can quit. Because it didn't make, as soon as I did that, I felt light.
Nice.
As soon as I sent him I just 2 words. Hey, Greg, I quit. That's it. And then I explained it in a second thing. But as soon as I said that, I knew I'd made that decision. My body it was a visceral feeling.
That's nice.
That I felt, so that just validates that philosophy, if you will. For me, you live by it. So not only doing things that I enjoy doing, like going to see the Dalai Lama, but not doing things, stopping doing things that I don't enjoy, like quitting that committee membership.
Well said.
That I
think
at.
that, that is an important, and it makes, when we do that, when we stop doing the things that aren't serving us, it makes more room for us to invite new, nourishing, joyful experiences that we can build on, right?
You create a vacuum. When you get rid of the negative stuff, it creates a vacuum for good stuff to come out. I tell people, look, you can't change your negative thinking into positive thinking right now. The first thing you need to do is stop your negative thinking. And I have some tools and tricks and techniques. And I told you I want to do a workshop book on that help you do that, help you get control of your thinking. How do you do that? Well, I have couple of visual aids and things that I've used over time to help me do that.
Yeah.
But I said, but once you do that, once you stop the negative thinking, because you'll get this negative thought, you'll hang on to it, then you just kind of, before you know it, that comes another thought, you're going down the rabbit hole.
No, yeah,
As soon as you, so I said, as soon as you recognize it's a negative thought,
shift is a word.
I use a steel door. I said is one of the images that I use.
Okay.
I said, think about a steel door, 5 feet wide, 8 feet high, and 12 inches thick. That's a big steel door. There's no thought that's getting through that. No negative thought. And I hear that thought come down and slam on the cement floor. Bam! And that thought is not getting through that door, and it allows me to go on and do something else. Then
it also reminds me of a tool a lot of healers work with that I'd learned, is like before you go into an airport where there's a lot of energy that you may not want to pick up on, or anywhere that there's a lot of energy and you don't want to take a lot on. You can imagine like yourself with your hands. It's kind of very somatic. Like imagine yourself wrapping yourself around in this like bubble, right, so to speak, the protective white light bubble, and anything that doesn't serve you will bounce off. It isn't to be in your energy field. And that can permeate that, like can come in, So like just kind of in a protection, spiritual protection tool. Yeah. There's lots of ones that people do, like cutting the umbilical cord to things to release and let go. Right. So more of a native approach. And
right.
Also just acknowledging it when it comes up, so that you don't keep building
I'm
on.
smiling because
wait.
you remember, what you reminded me of when you said all that is, do you see Ghostbusters? Do you ever see the movie Ghostbusters?
Oh, yeah.
Remember the big marshmallow man at the end?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So that's what I feel like when I have all of this stuff. I said, I'm like the marshmallow man. I said, it takes a lot to get through to me before it's, it's going to get stuck. I mean, I got this much stuff out there that my marshmallow stuff, that negative stuff has got to get through, Yeah. So it's the same kind of thing. Whatever visual image, people say, well, you mean like a stop sign? I say, yeah, stop sign, fine. Whatever you need, just to not hang on to that negative thought. Don't. Oh, I talk about the good wolf and the bad wolf.
Oh, that's a great story.
Yeah. So I said, don't feed the bad wolf. That's the bad wolf. Should I tell it real quick in case people don't know?
Why not?
So little 11-year-old boy goes to his grandfather and he says, Grandfather, what kind of a man am I going to be when I grow up? And his grandfather tells him, grandson, inside of me, we all have a good wolf and a bad wolf. And his grandson says, yes, grandfather, but which one will I be? And his grandfather says, the one you feed is the one you will become. So don't feed the bad wolf. That's all the negative thoughts. Don't feed that. Don't hang on to it. Hanging on to it is feeding it. Feed the good wolf, and stopping it is feeding the good wolf. Just stopping the negative thought is feeding the good wolf, right? And then you can actually come up with some good positive. What do I really want to do? How do I really want to be?
Yeah.
How do I want to show up every day? What kind of a man, what kind of a woman do I want to be?
I like to use a metaphor of like spring cleaning your closet. So
Nice.
if you just remove the things that you don't even wear anymore, they're just taking up space for you, and you're not, and I like to donate to like a women's rehab, like Hacienda around here, or sometimes my clients, or sometimes just alumni. Will come and help me with that, because it helps me know, like, at least it's going to somebody who can use it. And it's kind of like when I do sound baths too, I say, letting go of that which no longer serves you, be cycled back into Mother Earth. So not deeming it as wrong or bad or not good anymore, but it's just like making room for newness for this spiritual curriculum.
Yeah.
And also I can see what I have better when I don't have so much clutter or too much, and and again, it always makes room for new. And I like recycling too. I like the idea of recycling it back,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's nice.
maybe somebody else can benefit.
I'm not a good cleaner, but you see, that's interesting, because from your experience, it's the same thing. It's just a different visual. It's a different experience, And
Well, I used to own a fashion store.
the concept's the same, though. The concept is the
fashion, so it's kind of an easy benefit. And it's really something that, interestingly enough, like, it's like when I'm doing that stuff, I'm noticing myself. I recently let go of, some people that were not healthy for me to, you know, engage with. And, you know, I had to make room for the people that want what I have to offer.
Yes.
And that's really important with what I get to do today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
because
nice.
I really need to be present for a lot of people. And,
Yeah.
you know, you have a private practice and you work part-time at the rehab in Mexico, right?
Correct, yeah.
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 That's nice.
And I'm hopefully starting a speaking business as well, where I want to actually go out and, you know, be on other stages, other platforms with people.
Okay.
And again, whether
motivational speaker.
Yeah, well, all of this stuff, you know, there's a mental and emotional well-being. And I know that's, you know, again, it's still kind of hard for me to quantify when you're not in recovery. But I know that when I was in the real estate industry, I mean, I was making a lot of money, but I wasn't anywhere near as happy as I am today. And not that I don't want to make money. If it becomes important to me, I will. But you know, it's just a different feeling. And I believe that this feeling can permeate in whatever it is that I show up to do. So, because I take me with me wherever I go.
Yeah, you do. I love it. Yeah. Everywhere you
Just
go.
full
Everywhere I
circle.
go, there I am.
There I am. Exactly.
And I have the opportunity to be. One of the things I do if I used to get road rage, you were talking about earlier, was just say the third step prayer over, like a mantra, over and over until it dissipated.
Yeah.
And then seemingly somehow, I'm always amazed. I'm placed in a position to be of service, and I'm just like not even thinking about myself anymore at all. And it just, I forgot what was I upset about. I wasn't even in a hurry in the first place.
Yeah.
I would be in Westlake, like, I need to go, and then I'm like, I'm not even in a hurry. Why am I trying to hurry?
Yeah.
It's
Like
exactly. Really cool when we can overcome that. And
absolutely.
It's and I've mastered things, and then I go circle back to it at different times. Like I think, you know, lessons get presented again, but I think we're quicker to catch it and be in the solution about it.
Yeah.
You know, after we've had an experience with how much better it feels to be on the other side of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
and life is not, you know, it's not a diagonal like this. You know, life goes up and it goes down, and you know, we all like when we're on top of the mountain, but when we're in the valley, it sucks. And you know, but that happens. It's like the tide. It comes in, it goes out. It comes in, it goes out. You know, it's the same thing with life. I mean, that's that rhythm, that frequency, that breath that we all take and use, you know.
So I want to thank you for encouraging me to go to the World Conference in Vancouver this year.
It was so spontaneous. It was so. It was amazing.
Yeah, some of the best things in life are spontaneous, right?
Yeah.
And I am. I mean, if it
very
feels
organic.
right, and I was like, yeah, why not? You know.
Yeah.
I've never. Many of my friends have actually recently, ironically, told me, you know, if you haven't been to a world conference, make sure you do at some point, because you will be absolutely blown away at the unity and the experience of that unity when you're at one. I was like, okay.
You had those conversations before you and I spoke.
Yes, with my friend Jim in Hawaii.
That's amazing.
Who's a circuit speaker.
And here I showed up in your life, and we were talking about something totally different. And I said, hey, I'm going. And you said, oh, I'd like to go. I said, great.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
That's how I mean, it wasn't anything more than that. It was cool. It was amazing.
This has been great. So I'd like my viewers to be able to connect with you and utilize you as a resource.
Nice.
Maybe not even for a loved one suffering, but maybe for themselves or a friend they know that might like your style. And I can't imagine how many people wouldn't love it, you know. So it's just great.
Yeah. Okay, so great. So I have a website online. It's called SantiagoSpeaks.com. Santiago, 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 just the way it sounds. Santiago Speaks, SPEAKS.com. I have a phone number that you can call through that. I have a website. Email that you can contact me through. The phone number is 805-764-4564. You can call that, leave a message if it doesn't connect with me, and I will get back to you. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's great. So see about sharing these resources as I've shared with you today. There's nothing better than to be able to pass it along and be, resourceful. Definitely subscribe and like if you've enjoyed my show, or any moment in it is helpful to you going forward. That's the key. I mean, that is really part and most of what I want for you is, to add value to your life, to add the capacity for you to be in that flow state. So thank you for joining us at Cielo Spiritual Foundation's Inspiring Interviews. Please subscribe and like I said, and share with a friend. And we'll see you next week with another amazing interview. So stay tuned.